We're going to start with the feel-good story of the summer, which is Alpine. Not ideal, in the words of Sam Sage. Following the departure of CEO Lauren Rossi about 2.5 weeks ago, team principal Otmar Safnauer and sporting director Alan Permain have left Alpine. Pat Fry, the chief technical officer, has also gone, so I'm not quite sure if anyone is actually remaining. In terms of Otmar Safnauer and Alan Permain, their tenure at the team, a bit of variety there because Otmar Safnauer joined the team at the beginning of last year, whereas Permain has actually been at the quote-unquote team since 1988 in all of its various guises. Following the Hungarian Grand Prix, Otmar said that he had confidence that Otmar said that he had confidence that the team would support him in pursuit of the team's 100 race target. Alpine must have disagreed because they let him go. Sorry, no, it was mutual agreement. Sure.
It's all part of the plan.
It is all part of the plan, Sam. You're absolutely right. Were you surprised by this, though?
No, of course not. It's all part of the 100 race plan. It's exactly what was forecast. I'm sure Otmar is secretly rubbing his hands together like a supervillain. No, honestly, what is going on at Alpine? Otmar has just had such a bizarre career since Aston Martin bought out Racing Point that I don't really know where he stands within the sphere of Formula One. They didn't give me time, which I get. He got a season and a half, so he wasn't there forever as a team principal. And you've seen the likes of what Toto Wolff has brought to Mercedes and what Christian Horner has brought to Red Bull. Stability can often breed a lot of success. But, Permain and Otmar going does feel like a good thing. Wipe the slate clean. They weren't exactly on the up, and they haven't really been on the up for the last 4 or 5 years. Even when rebranding from Renault to Alpine, it's got big strong before they turned up. And I would argue that when Otmar came in, they didn't get the rejuvenation that they realistically needed. The fact that he literally announced his 100 race plan was 40% of the way through last week, though, is quite hysterical in timing. And then I think he came out with one of the best quotes in all of Formula One history, which was, if you get 9 women pregnant, you shouldn't expect to have a baby in a month. And I'm sorry, what does it mean?
Because he also says, I always say. You always say?
Brings out a barbecue.
Why?
At his child's school dance, I imagine.
He hasn't got a child. He's too impatient for that. He's got only wants to wait a month.
Honestly, it is some of the worst public speaking in Formula One I've ever seen. I always say, get 9 women pregnant, don't expect a baby in a month. Sorry, did I come up with that absolute nonsense?
Is that trial and error?
Yeah, what? 2 for a penny, 3 for a pound, you may as well said there, Otmar, because it makes as little sense when you break it down. It is... oh my good Lord. When you come up with statements like that, I'm not surprised you got fired within 18 months, because if that's the logic you're applying to any form of engineering or progress as a team, you may as well put me in the job because we're just as qualified as each other. There are 3 spots open. There are 3 of us here. I reckon we go for it. I reckon they might actually succeed. There'll be a lot more shouting and they might get some more press. So maybe a positive for them.
Interesting. Harry, do you fancy an Otmar switcheroo? So we'll have Otmar on the podcast. You go off, manage Alpine?
True.
Otmar.
I wouldn't be there every week because I'm not here every week.
That's so true.
Well, I don't think that'll make much of a difference, to be honest.
One race a month.
Probably be more successful, arguably. Alpine, what are you doing?
There it is.
It's classic.
I feel like that was a deserved one.
Yeah.
Firstly, I have suspected for a long time now that Otmar is an idiot. But that being said...
It's the least on the fence you've ever been.
That being said, I think this is a slightly harsh decision.
I think he's an idiot. This is harsh. Sorry.
I do think he's an idiot, but...
I'll take that back. You're still on the fence.
So conflicting in your statement.
No, but I do, but he can't have got all the way to the position of team principal in now 2 teams without having some skills. So he must have something. It's just not visible to me what they are. So I do think this is slightly harsh. I think the wider problem is just the management of Renault/Alpine, just that company as a whole. They are like just waving their arms up in the air, like got no idea. Like they just don't care. They've got no idea what they're doing. All the people that have sort of been in senior positions in Alpine/Renault. Alain Prost, what's Badowski? Is that how you say that? Yep.
Mike Badowski.
Mike Badowski.
His first name's massive.
Yeah, Mike Badowski. They've all been coming out and slating the running of Alpine/Renault, and I think if you look at the evidence, I think they're correct, because it's just utter chaos, and they're now making a thing of we've got to have some dramatic like contract news before the summer break. That's clearly their thing. They do now. Last year was Piastri, Alonso. This year is Otmar, Permain out the door.
They thought of signing anyone.
I don't know.
The other way around.
They might have to start signing people at some point because they're running out.
Did you hear what Alonso said about Otmar, though?
Just stop talking.
It's just you should shut up. It's not very successful.
Based on his quotes, he's not wrong.
Yeah, so the Otmar, I think both firings are harsh. I mean, Alain Permain has been there for a very long time, and I get what they're trying to do in terms of, clean slate. But they've had like 15 different clean slates over the past 2 years now, it feels like. So
It's got a whole roof.
how many slates do you need? Yeah, you're right. They do have an entire roof of slates. So yeah, this is a team in complete chaos, and I hope for their sake and for F1's sake they can turn it around. But we've mentioned this before. Alpine/Renault have been trying to turn it around for years, and they just keep finishing fifth. And I think that's all they're ever going to do. And this year they're in danger of not finishing fifth. They keep at it, but yeah, if you're Pierre Gasly and Esteban Ocon, who's signed up for the next 37 years, you'd be a bit worried, wouldn't you?
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh, no.
Yeah. To summarise, they are in turmoil, aren't they? I was surprised, and I mentioned this on the sprint review I did, so I won't go too much into this. I was surprised by the timing of it, because they literally could have waited 3 or 4 days, right?
Oh,
and then
till
suddenly
Monday.
the news is buried for like 4 weeks. There's no one there to answer why this has happened at press conferences and the likes. So the fact that they announced it on a race weekend, I think I summarized that I think Alpine are just trying to throw Otmar and Alan under the bus by saying, okay, you deal with it for a few days because this is firmly on you. But to your point, Harry, the common denominator of Alpine and Renault's lack of success is Alpine and Renault. But that's the only thing that links every single time they failed, is that the team is still the team. So I get your point on individual-wise why it might not be fully to blame. Certainly from Alain Permain, yeah, he's been there since 1988. He's been at Team Enstone since Ayrton Senna didn't have a world title.
Longer than we've been alive.
That'd be a long time.
Sam was only 30.
I remember it well.
So that one was a bit of a shock, but certainly from Otmar Safnauer's perspective, was I shocked when I thought about it? Well, not really. They managed to, in the space of 18 months, what has Otmar Safnauer achieved? Well, he managed to lose the best young driver in F1 in years.
Yep.
He managed to lose the best old driver in F1 in Fernando Alonso. He managed to fall behind Aston Martin and McLaren in the space of 18 months. And you might point at 2022 and say, well, they improved on their position from 2021. So well done, Otmar. But this is the Freddie Vast conversation, though, right? In that it's not really on Otmar Safnauer how well they did last year. So I think you've got all of these factors. None of them particularly line up well for Otmar Safnauer. And if they do finish 6th, it will be their worst finish since 2016. Not great.
I imagine Rossi's gone to the board. How many mistakes has Otmar made? And the board have all replied, there's too many.
Well done.
Because, thank you, we'll get onto that properly later. Because if you look at Otmar's track record before coming to Alpine, again, this has surely got to be on the board and the appointing team at Alpine, again, making mistakes. Otmar's not exactly the most successful person in his history either, right? Starting a long time ago working in Ford's engine department for their normal road cars, decided he wanted to get into racing, eventually wound up at BAR unsuccessfully, then went to Honda, wasn't successful, and then went to the Force India Racing Point team, which became Aston Martin. Was he successful? No, not really. Didn't produce a lot of success there, did he? So what will Alpine do? They hire this absolute mid team principal and engineer. You know, it like, well, what have you achieved, mate? He's not got, pedigree. He's not got a lot of old school success that he can implement. It's not like you've taken, Adrian Newey out of Red Bull and put him as your team principal. Same with what Williams did with James Vowles. At least he was part of a winning team. Otmar's won nothing in his whole career. What do you expect when you hire him? I think as much as Otmar clearly isn't the best man in the world at his job, that's fine. The three of us aren't either. They still decided to hire him and expect the world to be turned on its head for Alpine. So as much as Otmar hasn't done a great job, Alpine have done a worse job by hiring someone who's already mediocre and expecting greatness in the first place.
That's a very fair point on team principles, because if you think about who we have here on the grid, Christian Horner, he was winning with his team in F2, GP2, before he went to Red Bull. Who else have we got? Freddie Vass. He's had some relative success at Sauber. Who are other team principals? James Vowles did quite well at Mercedes. Toto Wolff, I guess, is the one that the outlier in that, because he didn't do a lot before then, but I think evidence has spoken for itself on that one, so he's all right. He can stay.
He's all right.
But the trend quite fairly.
It's a fair point. What were the redeeming qualities in Otmar? And he's saying that he's still got a job with somewhere in F1. Who? Why?
Oh, gosh. Apparently, Binotto is queued up to take over the space. That's the name I've been hearing.
Good job, Alpine. Good job.
With the Binotto thing, has anyone actually identified why they want him? Like, I've got nothing against Binotto as he's very good at what he did, which wasn't team principal. It was before he was team principal. But has anyone actually identified why he's a leading candidate outside of he hasn't got a job?
Just hanging around, mate. They just pluck him.
Alpine engine don't go vroom. Well, Binotto makes F1 engines go vroom.
Vroom, vroom.
So they need it to go vroom vroom. So that's why they get Binotto. It's go broom broom with a B. I would get Franz Tost personally. He's out at AlphaTauri.
Oh, he's into retiring, mate, isn't he? Let him have a little sleep.
Never let the toast retire.
Never let the toast go cold.
Toast for life.
Nice. Big fan of that. So, Sam, how much trouble are the team in?
Oh, huge, monumental trouble. They are one of the leading manufacturers in the sport, and they are at massive risk of not only getting jumped by the current teams that are on the grid at the moment, but 2026 is around the corner. They're already having to call for engine equalization. They're going to have to be up against the likes of Honda, who are going to be coming in, Audi, of course, who are going to be coming in. I imagine that them two, alongside the current front runners, are going to start leaving them in the dust. And if Aston Martin and McLaren, who are both, purchasing customer teams, they're not their own manufacturers, can leapfrog Alpine this massively, what's stopping Audi coming and doing the same thing? What's stopping Williams, who are already catching up, coming in and doing the same thing? The only team they can stay ahead of is Haas, because they just basically sit around in a box and doodle on the wall all day, and they are literally a waste of space.
Got to get a hashtag in there just in case.
Yeah. The grave is deep.
Good stuff. I think they are. I don't know how much immediate danger they're in, just because they have a solid lineup and an okay car. So I think for now, they will at least tread water at worst, would be my guess. But certainly long term, it's a classic parent thing. And not that I'm a parent, but the classic parent thing. I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed. And it's a shame more than anything, because they could be good. Like, they are running their own power. They are a factory team. They could be good, and they just aren't. They try to, and they can't even. And it's really annoying.
Can someone please edit Otmar's face and a little Alpine top onto Ralph Wiggum going, "I'm in danger," please? Because I think that would be a really funny meme.
Anything with Ralph Wiggum's funny, to be fair.
Yes.
I think in terms of young drivers, certainly they've got a few F2 drivers that look okay, but the problem is none of them are Piastri. They could have really used him, but they haven't got him now. Overall, though, whoever comes in, whether it's Binotto, French Toast, someone else, they just need to make sure that the board and whoever is leading the team are just in agreement on timelines. Because clearly Otmar Safnauer was like, right, I've got 100 races to make this right. And it doesn't matter where we are in any of the first 99. If we're okay by race 100, I've done my job. And clearly Alpine have a different idea of, yeah, but you didn't say you'd be further behind at race 40 than you would be at race 0. So I think whoever comes in just needs to be clear, okay, I've got nothing against long-term planning. You can have your 100 race plan, which roughly speaking is 4.5 seasons. Cool. But let's put in a few checkpoints. Let's see, where are you after 30 races and after 60 races? And we could really do with you being about here by that point. Because if you set those in place, then you're not stuck in a situation where, well, we might have gone back 3 positions in the championship, but hey, we're not even halfway there yet, are we, lads?
It just feels like an easy cop-out to give yourself a long contract. It's like, me going into work and going, I'll make sure I have this project finished in 1,000 days, and I could just sit around and do nothing for the first 973. As long as in the last 2 weeks, I get it done. You can't fire me because I said 1,000 days, and that's 3.5 years. It's not, but you get the point.
There's some questionable maths in that analogy.
I never said I was good at maths, okay?
But I'll roll with it.
We got the analogy, but understood. Harry, what do you think needs to happen for whoever comes in next for it to work?
I would get Fernando Alonso back. No, I wouldn't do that. They just, you're right. They need, and this is why I say it was slightly harsh. They do need the time, but you're right that there needs to be made very clear that it's going to take some time. This isn't going to happen overnight. I mean, look at Aston Martin, for example. 2021, 2022, nothing to write home about. 2023, a lot to write home about, but even so, still not enough, is it? It's still, even this remarkable year 3 they're having, they're not winning races yet. They've been close, but they're not winning anything. So, that's getting closer and closer to that 100 race thing that Otmar. So I think in that sense, that wasn't a bad target, but you're right. They need to be clear that it's be clear what the journey looks like on the way, because it happens in F1. You have up and down years. We've seen with McLaren where they seem to be on an upward trajectory, and then they've had a bit of a dip, and now they seem to be back on that upward trajectory again. That's easy for you to say.
Apparently.
Progress isn't a smooth line. I don't think in Formula One, and I think that needs to be made clear to Alpine, and you shouldn't just get rid of people all the time, because that's not how. A bit of stability, I reckon, would do.
Yeah, get the stabilizers back on.
Yeah, they've just taken the stabilizers off the bike and they're wobbling everywhere. Yeah.
So again, Simpsons reference where he puts the stick in his own wheel and the bike immediately falls over.
Perfect.
You know what? In F1, burgling is legal.
Oh no, trajectory of burgling.
Go out and steal everything. Take team principals, take engineers, get drivers, because Ocon and Gasly are going to be running for the hills at the end of this summer break. So you're going to need it. Steal an engine or two. Go get some youth drivers in. They're good. Get them in. Just theft is okay.
No.
Well, that's a real right there.
Disclaimer, no.
On everything Sam says, little asterisk in the bottom right corner.